the judge actually called us out, too, for being a little too loud.
Having a big crowd cheering him on was really special to us.
The authorities were convinced that the murder of a white prison guard had been the result of a black militant conspiracy. Just 2 weeks after Miller's killing, as part of the roundup of black radicals, Robert King was brought to Angola from New Orleans.
I was 150 miles away from Angola and hadn't been in Angola for 6 months. Prior to his death, had never met the man in my life, but I was investigated for that. The fact is that I was a member of the Black Panther Party, and they saw me as being some kind of faraway conspirator. And from there, they determined that I would be sent to CCR where Herman and Albert was, along with other members of the Black Panther Party, whom they had scooped up in mass and had placed in cells around the prison. They told me I was being investigated for the death of Brent Miller. I said, why am I being investigated? I said, I wasn't even in Angola, and nevertheless, that's what it was. I was being investigated. I was under investigation from 1972 when they put me in CCR until the time I was released.
He was in CCR for a murder that they knew he couldn't have committed under investigation. Because he wound up doing all 29 years in solitary under investigation. Would the investigation take 29 years?
There was never any evidence of Robert's involvement in Miller's murder, but the Angola authorities soon found another reason to keep him in solitary confinement. An inmate was murdered in a knife fight on Robert's CCR tier.
We used to just open up all of the cells and let everybody out. The solid, this is how everybody was out in the hall that morning.
One prisoner called Grady Brewer admitted this killing in self-defense, but Robert was also held responsible.
They saw an opportunity to inject me or insert me into it, despite the fact that the coroner's report stated that blood was found only on one of the knives that they had found. My fingerprint wasn't on nothing. No blood was ever found on any piece of clothing of mine. On the other hand, the shirt that Grady had on, and he wasn't trying to hide it, was drenched in blood. Because, he admitted that he had killed him in self-defense. Nevertheless, they got someone to say that I had also participated in it. And so I was charged with the murder, and we went to trial jointly.
Like Herman and Albert before him, Robert found himself in the St. Francisville courthouse.
A trial date was about to be set without our having even talked to the attorneys that they had appointed to us. Grady was more outspoken than I was. And the judge, he kept telling me, Your Honor, I don't want to go to trial with these lawyers. They can't protect me. They can't defend me. They haven't even heard. I chimed in also. They don't know anything about the case. And Grady kept talking. And I think the judge told him, shut up, I'm talking. And he said, but Your Honor, I need a lawyer. I can't stand to be kangaroo. And the judge said, one more word out of you, and I got something for you. And when Grady, he said, I done opened my mouth, but you got it. I didn't say one more word. And at that, the judge called the sheriff and said, bound him and gag him. And we set that duct tape over our mouth, shackled, and our hands was handcuffed behind our back. And I was convicted.
And so Robert again disappeared back into the depths of Angola alongside Albert and Herman in solitary confinement.
The court never said that these men will be sentenced to solitary confinement for life. That wasn't the sentence. Yes, people that transgress the law must be punished. But there is a humane consideration in how that punishment is exacted.
Every 90 days, their status was reviewed, but the administration always insisted that they were a threat to the general prison population and kept them in solitary confinement.
It doesn't take but a few years for one to begin, quote, losing their mind. Our clients are extraordinary. They have kept their minds active. They have studied. They've enrolled in college courses. Something to keep their mind active.
They didn't allow us to be in the same cell, so we were in different cells. So we call the spots out. We would say, pawn the king folk. The pawns were easy. The rooks was relatively easy. The knights, sometimes they fall. We used to take toothpaste. We were allowed to have toothpaste and toothbrush. And we would take toilet paper. And for instance, like these squares, we used to take and glue this together, and we take toothpaste and glue it to the floor. And we did 64 of them. And then we make the chessboard out the toilet paper. I spent, over the years, I spent quite a few hours playing chess, but still get kind of tested sometimes.
I would think Rooks was the best, and probably then King didn't be,
I could beat Albert on the chessboard, but Herman was kind of more difficult.
Well, I think I was playing before Robert. Among the tree, I hate to say it because I didn't want it to sound egotistical, but I'm better.
By 1996, Robert, Herman, and Albert should all have been released from their original sentences for robbery. Instead, years passed, with the Angola Three still languishing in solitary confinement, unnoticed by all but a few.
I hadn't made contact with Herman or Albert. I had to honor my commitments. And my commitment to them was that I would never allow people to forget. And so with that, we started a support committee. Any opportunity I get, I would speak about their plight.
This is Herman Wallace, out of solitary confinement here at Angola State Penitentiary. The Angola 3 reaches out to you from the belly of the beast. Time has changed our bodies, but not our resolve. Our souls are battered and bruised, but we remain defiant. We continue to hold high the principles of the Black Panther Party.
But the authorities had an answer for the defiance of the Angola Three.
One of the things they use to keep inmates in line is the threat to send them into CCR. But then inside CCR, there's a hole. There's a hole within a hole. That hole is called Camp J.
It was a punishment camp. Some of the inmates they would actually try to kill themselves. They would start beating their heads up against the wall. They couldn't stand being put on 4-point restraints. So they would put the football helmet on to keep them from hurting themselves. And that only made it worse because then the claustrophobia sets in. I don't think anyone has any idea how humiliating it is to be shackled around in a bed with a football helmet on your head and to lay there and urinate and defecate on yourself, day after day after day.
It was a situation that a person really needed every ounce of whatever it takes to survive, whatever wit, And some people managed to do that.
Even with the threat of being sent to the dungeons of Camp J, the Angola Three continued to demand basic human rights.
They became prison litigators. They were suing the penitentiary on all kinds of issues. They became extraordinary lawyers.
We had to file a lawsuit in order to get on the yard, 1 hour on the yard, 3 days a week.
Lay your palms flat and spread your fingers out. That's pretty much how the yards work. Except they had 6 of them instead of 4, 1 man per yard for CCR. We challenge each other and do a great deal of strenuous exercises to keep our bodies in shape.
They did their best to stop us, and it did several times. They kind of sprayed us out and put us in different places, but I think they kind of realized that in doing that, they wasn't doing nothing but maybe distributing what they wanted to contain. So they decided to keep keep us all in one place. I remember I used to determine how wide the cell was by the outstretch of my arm, and I could barely really make both hands touch the wall. You know, I look at the cell, 6 by 9 by 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. Walk to the left, walk to the right. You'd be surprised how long it takes to do 5,000 steps. It's just trying to utilize the space, that you have from part of your habitat. But yeah, this cell here is it's not an exact replica, but hey, I used about as close as you could get using wood,
They used to set our food on the door and slide it underneath the door. And we had to pick it up and eat through the bars. We eventually got tired of that. And we had a 45-day hunger strike in order to get them to trade the food can be served through the slots. It took us 18 months to do that, so in the meantime, we reached an agreement that we could eat through our balls if we wanted to hold our trays in our hands. Eventually somebody, I think it was King, made like a little shelf on his door out of cardboard and string, so he could set the tray there and stand and eat through the balls. And eventually everybody copied that.
Some guys got fancy. They began to put drawings on it and color it up, put tablecloth on it. And so they saw we were having fun. Then they decided to come over and cut the holes in the balls.
The Angola III struggle for prisoner rights came from their belief in the Black Panthers' demands that African Americans be treated as equal human beings. They insisted modern America should live up to its founding principles.
We just want the courts to make sure we have peers on the jury or people from the black community as defined by their jive constitution of the so-called United States.
The Black Panthers believed in the Constitution. The Constitution states that a person shall be tried by a jury of their peers. And there were no black people in this country who were ever tried by their peers at that particular time. So we want them to be free.
In the year 2000, Robert's new lawyer was able to use the Panthers' demand for representative juries to get his case reopened. The courts found that, like Herman and Albert, Robert's conviction rested on unreliable inmate testimony and was judged unsound.
The woods are beautiful.
It had taken 29 years.
A negotiation was had. They said, well, we'll go into the state court, where we are now, and we will say his conviction should be reversed if he pleads guilty now to a lesser crime. That way they get a conviction and he gets to go out. Not the exoneration or the vindication he wanted, but freedom.
Guess the last time I was coming up the stairs, I came up with 2 security guards, one on both sides. He said a state that told him that if I was willing to plead guilty to accessory after the fact, that I would be released and walk out. And I thought about it. And it dawned on me that we're pleading guilty to accessory after the fact. Wow. They could have charged anybody with that. Any of the 13 people who resided on the tree at the time, because we all know somebody had been killed. And so this is the reason why I would, no problem, I'll accept that plea.
That's when I had to break the news that they changed the plea from accessory to conspiracy.
Yeah.
Then I came out here and told you about it, and as I recall, your first instinct was not to accept it. I went back in and told the DA no deal. I came back and I think we said goodbye right here at the door.
What they were saying was really tempting, in the fact of my getting out after 31 years, it was so appealing